Hello, and thank you for having me. My name is Mathilde, and I am based in Blackburn. I would define myself as a psychogeographer, or even better, a spiritual geographer. I'm not very comfortable with the terminology of artist, because to me, an artist is more somebody like Mark Rothko or Tracy Emin, or Leonardo da Vinci, and not maybe Mathilde from Blackburn. I'm a writer, and I'm more comfortable with that definition. And I'm an eclectic existential psychotherapist by trade. And culturally, I would define myself as Friulian, which is the land that I come from, which is in the northeast of Italy and near the border with Austria and Slovenia. Some of you will know me from the books that I wrote. I published The Man in My White Table as a collection of 20 years of creativity with some of my short stories, my poems, and some of my photographs. Then I published Rebel Therapy, coming from the perspective of my practice as a therapist. And last year in May in 2020, I published 1,000 Names, which is a book about death and rebirth, and it is written as an internal monologue. Spiritual geography. Well, why that name? Because I think that to me, a sense of belonging and a sense of knowledge of the land, and especially the idea of thresholds and crossings are extremely important. I've spent most of my life traveling, not feeling very settled in any specific place, and I feel a bit sort of like a gypsy kind of thing. And so everywhere I go, whether I'm on holiday or an exhibition, or like in that picture through in Manchester, and I had to go around wrapped in my scarf. That is me, and I normally take pictures of my feet. And as I said, especially being European now in this land, and with Brexit, I always thought that the idea of location, belonging, and displacement are extremely important. This also informed part of my work in 2019 and in 2020, and what I would call my Sophie Calm moment. And as a reaction of one of the last live drawing sessions that we had at university in York, was me trying to find find a line. Some of you might remember me from conservation on the 6th of May 2019. That was a collaboration of between Blackburn College and, of course, the Bureau. Has been created in Blackburn Cathedral as a reaction from the church being burnt down. My God. What a couple of weeks we had. And for anyone interested, there is a documentary that explains how conservation came about, and what informed and what it was the context of the earthquake in 1976. After conservation, I created Legacy, which was an exhibition that not only allowed me to create a sense of archive of memories and specific days in my life, but also allowed me to start painting and drawing and somehow expanding my life in a very subjective and phenomenological approach, in which I could create sort of like almost like a technical drawing, an explosion of what actually was the thought process that was actually going on within me. And I thought that extremely liberating, so much, and that's actually a picture of me doing that process at Victoria Building in Blackburn. So much that it actually informed to the following work, which was a research residency in London just before COVID, actually, titled Before Nothing, in which I acted somehow as an artist, painter in a cage, and I could ask anybody to come and look at me working, or thinking about work, or having my lunch, or having a break, or playing on my phone, or feeling extremely cold, and or not knowing what to draw, etc. So the idea of actually being able to be allowing the people actually to come and see me while I was making the work, and that informed my research, because I wanted to see how my marking would change, whether I was looked at or not, whether I was bored or not, and especially trying to understand what was the reaction in the viewer while I was making the work. And this is the final piece. It's about 6 meters long and 1.5 meters high. In September last year, then I moved on to York St John for my BA Fine Art. The first semester last year has been mostly material manipulation and understanding materials and understanding how we react to material and how material becomes like an extension of who we are. I've spent most of my FAD, the foundation at Blackburn College, working with glasses by chance, and then first semester at university I was working very much with cubs and yes, and trying to understand. I've noticed how my most of my work was black and white, as it was very much black and white, and I was happy. And then I started making some loops, and I went into a sort of like a very highly meditative state in which I was like sort of like looping everything again, black and white, working on paper or creating these very gigantic balls of Mobius loops, whether they were all white or black and white, and creating my own sort of like monoprint in colors. Then I thought about, this is starting to grow up, is trying to reproduce a 3D version of a 2D tattoo, and the 2D tattoo is already a 2D representation of a 3D idea that I had in my mind since the night of the earthquake. At the end of the semester, I've created a truth seeker, or Anatatitis Alithias, which is sort of like an expansion of my understanding of Plato's Cave from Plato's Republic, which is all about truth, and whether the truth are the shadows or whether the truth is actually what we see. But what is it that actually what we see? Plato's Cave then informs Martin Heidegger, and the aesthetics of Martin Heidegger is very close to my heart, and his idea of an artist as someone who has got basically the artist is the truth maker, and allows other people to see their own truth. This my passion for geography and displacement is this. For example, I've decided digitally to place the sea everywhere. You can recognize the map of Blackburn on the left hand side, and on the right hand side is a town in Italy, up in the Alps, where I've lived for about 16 years of my life. So of course, being in the Alps, there is no sea, but I love the sea, so I put the sea everywhere. And of course, I've been making maps most of my life. I've been drawing maps, making maps, creating maps in 2Ds, 3Ds, in different shapes and forms. Very simple to me, but the idea again of knowing where we are and knowing where we are going is both metaphorically but also in reality is highly important. I've brought maps of the outdoor inside, but also maps from the inside. I've created them outdoor. This is Lytham's Beach, for example. I think that to me it's important to understand where is the map. So if the map is physically in our hand, or is the map in our feet because we are moving, or the map is just a construct that we have in our head. These are other ideas of map that I had here. Most of them, of course, they are paper on card or paper on paper, and of course the loops again. In this is kind of like getting lost kind of idea. I don't only work in black and white. I like to, my spare time, I like to do color. It's always been something very sort of like a very personal, very private, hidden kind of practice, the fact of layering, texturizing, and creating paintings in acrylics and then different mediums and markers or oil on acrylic or nail varnish, etc. And so I've decided one day just to take this outside and to be able other people to see this. So I've cut my drawings and then I've created maps with this, and that's informed my last work, which is titled Innocence, which is this is in collaboration between York St John University and Leeds Libraries, or Leeds Secret Library, where I've actually created a specific painting which is based on innocence and the children in the year that actually Margaret Thatcher came into power, and then I've cut it into pieces and I've created a map. What I do normally is that all my paintings that are then cut into pieces, of course I don't use up all the pieces, but these pieces inform then other works, so there is a passing on of memory of all the works. And now we come to the Spiritual Geographer, because I thought that maybe all these painting that I do in color, and then again they are sort of like metaphorical maps and symbolic maps, and again they are metaphorical journeys, and they are highly texturized and have these beautiful colors in my own perspective of blues and greens of oceans and water. There is a kind of a sense of freshness, and again a very sort of like mindfulness kind of working, sort of like a never-ending loops, and highly layered. And as you can see, well, just the explanation is because the Celestine Prophecy is a book that has informed my spirituality since 1996. To be honest, the Celestine Prophecy, I always say, is a book and a series of books that actually saved my life. It's all about connections, about interconnectivity, highly phenomenological, very personal, very subjective. Yes, and it's all about energy and connections and auras and spirituality, which goes beyond the borders of dogma or religiosity in a kind of like an official way. And again, here are the loops, and to me, this Mobius loops is a symbol of infinity. Is a symbol to me of a life that never started and that will never end, because we have always been, this sense of non-duality which is highly present in me, and in a kind of representation of a person mythology that has always been very present in me. And this is part of the works that I do. This is a 2D, just a painting, maybe ready to be cut into pieces. And these are other two of the paintings that I do as a representation of my sense of spirituality. And this is why I call myself a spiritual geographer. On the left hand side is like an egg as a symbol of creation, and on the right hand side instead, that's my altar with one of my paintings as a graphic representation. And now I'm working on a 40-meter long painting that will be exhibited, a kind of like festooned, and the people can actually be within, inside and outside, and being inside or outside, but sort of contained within the experience of the painting. For the people who are asking me how I work, I always say that I read a lot, extensively, and I read about theoretical stuff, and I also read about still theoretical stuff but more applied on the practice of learning to be an artist, for not finding a better word for now, but also of all the geographical stuff, which is map making and traveling and moving. So there's bridge chattering, there is, I don't know, on the road, there is a description of travels, there is this idea of the flaneur, or the person who constantly walks and reads poetry, and very solitary and very silent. And then I write. I write in a self-reflective mode. I write my journal, I write about my practice, and I walk as a proper geographer. I walk, I write, and I I read. So, well, thank you very much for having me, because I think that my time is up. So you can find me on Instagram, on my website. I blog every week and you can find that on my website. There is a Facebook page. My books, if you're interested, can be found on Amazon. The documentary on YouTube regarding conservation is up. And also there is a podcast I've been interviewed during lockdown at the very beginning with the title Why Happiness is Just a Mood. So again, thank you very much. Yes, I think I made it within the 15 minutes. Bye!